Alright guys, such Kremp again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far we are just a couple of days away from the Call of Duty World Championship, and given this massive break that we have had between DreamHack and Major 4 and here at the World Championship over the last couple of weekends, the content has been pretty interesting in the COD space. ZooMaa among others doing some watch parties for the Counter-Strike. There's a bit of drama going down last night as a result of that. ZooMaa gives his thoughts there, but also some roster implications happening in the Call of Duty League, not just now, but also post the World Championship as well. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Here's Nastie vlogging it again for the World Championship, it seems, this time around. And Charlie Intel point out some of the things that are going to be happening this weekend. So this was the graphic that the COD League put out a while ago where they said day one schedule and made absolutely no implication as to when day one actually is. Now they have changed that and updated that in a second. These are the 4 games of the first day, which is in 2 days time on the Thursday this weekend. And this is what you can watch and earn. You've got the blueprints and all this type of stuff. Look, we talked about it and we're going to talk about it again in a second. What happens in the Counter-Strike world, the diamond coins, the stickers, the skins, you know, all this type of stuff that drops around the right time, gathers so much momentum and hype around the tournament. You know, this is what we get in COD. Okay, it's something, right? Like, it's not like they totally ignore it. And if you watch on COD League, you're going to get access to all this type of stuff. I will say the COD League over the last few years has been in a pretty tricky spot. The season when Scump retired, that year we had Twitch and YouTube. And I will say that if we do go back to a world where there's no YouTube deal and it is Twitch and YouTube again, I think that could be a positive for the way the scene could go next year with Black Ops 7. I know that many will say, look, I want to watch on YouTube because it's a better viewing experience. Totally get it, and frankly totally agree with you, and I'll be watching on YouTube as well, but hopefully it's on both, right? Like, that's my opinion, because it is better for the scene when there's that community interaction level on Twitch. I think there are rumors that that may be happening, but yeah, the COD League did it. They did an updated graphic for day one. This time it actually did have the event date, so they included that this time. June 26th, June 29th, day one schedule. Here are the 4 games as ever, ending with FaZe versus OpTic. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on today, but 3 days until champs. As of today, of course, only 2 days until the World Championship. Now, a couple of roster things I wanted to get into before we talk about this ZooMaa related drama, and that comes out of Daryl. So obviously, the Gentlemates have had a rather tricky season, to say the very least. They've been, frankly, rather shocking, and Javid's been the head coach over there of the team. It's not all gone to plan this year. There have been various interesting decisions being made, and not necessarily being made by him, right? I don't know how operations have gone behind the scenes at Gentlemates. There's a feeling that some of the decisions being made were not necessarily in the hands of the individuals running the team, you know, with Gataga running the show as former player, creator. I don't know exactly whether Gataga was calling the shots. Of course, there's like another guy over there involved in Gentlemates as well, but there is a feeling that you guys probably remember in Los Angeles Thieves back in Cold War. Not to say this was really a bad decision, but it's just maybe how it goes sometimes when you've got a former pro leading up the organization. So Gentlemates organization founded by Gataga, right? Former COD pro player, now massive French creator in general, and he was watch partying like all of their games for part of this season, and then I don't know if he stopped. I'm presuming he stopped at some point because it got kind of ugly, and it was like, all right, they will be back next year. And I'm sure that they will be, and I hope that they go on to do great things, because Gentlemates are a big organization in France. They have loads of fans, and it's great to see that scene develop, right? I mean, it was phenomenal what we saw the scenes out in Madrid when, let's be real, the French fans that were there supporting Gentlemates were outnumbering the Spanish fans that were, you know, the event was in Spain, right? So it was pretty remarkable, but according to my understanding, yeah, that those numbers were true, that there were more French fans there than there were Spanish fans, and hopefully we get to see more of that in due course as well in the scene. But when LA Thieves in 2021 Cold War season, the team was an absolute disaster. They made a million changes. JCab was, you know, calling the shots maybe, and it wasn't really going to plan. And at the end of the season, COVID was over and went back to LAN, and Nadeshot said, all right, we're bringing, I don't know if this is 100% true, but the theory goes anyway that Nadeshot effectively stepped in and said, look, you guys have messed around this season. We're going back to LAN. I'm bringing Slasher back in. I'm bringing Huke back in. I don't care what you say. That was the theory anyway. Now, you know, I don't know if that's been the case with the Gentlemates team this season, where some of the decisions have come from up high and been somewhat overruled. But when a team that at least has some talent on it is that shambolic, it's probably indicative that things from top to bottom haven't been in a great spot. So Daryl actually put this out. It's pretty rare here that we're logging into LinkedIn for the day, but thanks to Double XP for pointing this out to me, because, you know, I'd heard about this from Javed, but I hadn't actually seen a post on it until I saw it here on LinkedIn. But he says, with our season over at Gentlemate, I'll be stepping away at the end of August. It's been a privilege to work alongside such passionate and talented individuals. From leading New York to a world championship to fostering cultural and performance breakthroughs in esports teams, mission has always been to create sustainable success, develop leaders, and elevate performance. Of course, we know that Java worked for a long time with, HyDra, right? Even before he was a pro, and we've kind of seen the implications of that over the last couple of years or so. With this chapter closing, exploring new opportunities in esports leadership, coaching, GM roles, performance operations, performance and culture consulting. So yeah, thought it was pretty cool. Wishing Java the best going forwards, absolutely. But yeah, he basically confirmed that he'll be stepping away. Now, I don't know exactly what this looks like, as in, you know, have the team decided that he's going to go, right? Because at the end of the day, his records, especially on the New York team, kind of speaks for itself in terms of the success that he had over there. And it's understandable that people are going to consider him still in a very high regard, and I think that's justified. But Gentlemate, after a difficult season, yeah, there were rumours at one time, weren't there, that they were going to drop him and bring in Whalers or something. If you guys remember Whalers, he's an old school French pro, and he went to play Valorant for a few years for, I think, the Gentlemates. He played them for a couple of years. I don't think he's on their team anymore, but there were rumours that the guys were going to bring Whalers in as their coach. Clearly that never happened, right? At least for now, but there was a feeling that, you know, why, I don't know, if Java had heard about those rumours, which I imagine that he probably did, then he was probably thinking, what is going on in this organisation, to the point where you're bringing in this guy who has no coaching experience on this level just because he's French and he knows guitar or whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? That never happened, obviously, but I think that kind of shows you some of the things that were happening behind the scenes at Gentlemates this year. Whether Javed's decided fully to step away or whether it's kind of, let's just say, been a mutual decision, that is still a bit of a question mark, but it does throw that organisation into some degree of, you know, chaos going forwards. Their head coach leaving, where do they go from there? Where do they start again? Do they actually bring in Whalers this time after the rumours several months ago? Enter into your thoughts in the comments below. The OpTic boys and the players getting out there in time for the World Championship, flying out to Toronto, maybe staying in Toronto a couple of days, then headed over to Kitchener when required. But yeah, I imagine they'll be out there for the World Championship venue today, tomorrow, getting some scrims in on the Wednesday before the tournament. Of course, only 8 teams there at the World Championship. 8 teams all become 1 when we get to Sunday. Thought this is pretty cool as well. Active champ streaks going into Kitchener. So yeah, Drazah and Shotzzy now been to 6 in a row. CleanX, Envoy, Simp and Cell all at 7 in a row. aBeZy's done 8 because he also competed at the 2018 World Championship. So Simp has now done 19, 21, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 would make it 7. aBeZy played the year prior at the World War II Champs, and then Dashy played the year prior to that in 2017 World Championship, of course. So, you know, as I said before, really, Dashy is one of the absolute veterans of this league at this point. Now, the reason why this has an asterisk beside it is because one of the World Championships he did compete at, but he wasn't on the team technically. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the 2020 World Championship, OpTic Gaming Los Angeles, Dashy was benched off the team mid-season, but at the end of the year, Kenny got DDoSed on a Piccadilly Search and Destroy map 5. Dashy subbed in, picked up the sniper, went off with it, and, you know, said, see y'all in Cold War, right? You guys probably remember that tweet. But that, as a result of that, Dashy did compete at that year's World Championship. So, you know, it's a little bit cheese, maybe, because he wasn't meant to compete, as it were. Like, he was off the team at the time, but he did compete, and since then, of course, he's been there every single year, and I doubt that is going to change at all. So these are the active CDL champ streaks. Of course, the first ever World Championship was in 2013, so Scump, for example, would have played pretty much the entire run of that. But Dashy's certainly not far off the all-time record when it comes to champs appearances. But this is when the drama was happening in the ZooMaa. So these past couple of weeks have been interesting in terms of content. We've seen, understandably, I think, many of the content creators being like, well, COD's pretty dead. Let's go and talk about CS or something else. So ZooMaa started running these Counter-Strike watch parties. Now, of course, ZooMaa isn't the first person to do a Counter-Strike watch party. Okay, in the COD scene, like, sure, I guess, but, you know, there's been plenty of other people doing watch parties of other games over time. Not to take away the content that ZooMaa makes at all, obviously, right? But the concept of, you know, watching some other stream or watching somebody else play a game on stream is not exactly, like, it's not trademarked, is it, let's say. But, you know, there was a bit of drama about it because this guy says ZooMaa started doing CS watch parties, and then one day, Zinni joins up, right, to, you know, enjoy the show, starts watching with him. All of a sudden, they're doing a whole load of CS watch parties. Now, unfortunately, it seems the tweet has been deleted, but Zinni actually replied to this with a screenshot of OpTic's schedule for content, and you could see that the CS Major Grand Finals Sunday watch party was scheduled in days before it actually happened. So Zinni, I don't know, he tweeted it out. It's since been deleted, unfortunately, but I definitely saw it with my own eyes, that Zinni tweeted out a screenshot of the content schedule to effectively tell this Harvey guy that, like, look, that was a plan before ZooMaa really started doing it, or I was on ZooMaa stream or whatever, right? It wasn't like it came out of nowhere as an OpTic idea. They already had the idea to watch party this Sunday, which of course they eventually did. But, you know, this guy says they stole ZooMaa's whole flow again. And it is kind of funny, right? This is the state of the scene where this is the type of stuff we're arguing about. It's like, it doesn't really matter. Nobody really cares. But, you know, here we are, right? And people are getting into it big time over this because, you know, there's no COD on, right? And there will be, thankfully, in a couple of days' time. So, you know, Jake Hal says Clay started doing pro COD. One day Scumpy joined and starts playing with him, and after that ZooMaa's doing pro COD, he stole Scump's whole flow again. So it is a pretty funny potential copy-pasta type tweet here, but ZooMaa decided that he needed to respond to it and give him perspectives. Of course, like, there's some people in the ZooMaa mafia, it is what it is, and as ZooMaa says, saw this here and also on Reddit, nothing but love and respect for the OpTic guys. Those of you that know my story know they're a big reason why I'm here today. Stop comparing and always trying to tear us apart. We can't be this bored. None of us invented watch parties. You know, exactly. I know that there's other people saying that, oh, well, the breakdown, right? They copied ZooMaa's whole flow and all this. And you know what? Sure, obviously Scump and Zinni, when they did the breakdown, they saw, okay, look, this post-match show idea is doing pretty well. We want to think about our own version. You know, nothing wrong with that at all. Was it the flank? No. Was it done in a different way to the flank? Sure. Was ZooMaa the first person to ever do like a post-match show in any regard? No. Not taking away anything at all from what he built with the flank, because it's been such an important piece of content for us in the competitive COD space over the last few years that is worthy of inspiration being taken by others. But it doesn't mean that we have to, you know, get into tribal warfare or all of this type of stuff. So anyway, there was some further responses. Octane says, why did he text me to screw Tony then? He stole my CH watch party. So yeah, that doesn't seem to be all that much evidence of that. But look, the World Championship is finally here. We get to stop talking about some of this petty drama and going into the big one. Of course, there are some big favourites for the World Championship. I don't know who you guys have as like the dark horse of the tournament. I'm personally taking OpTic. I know that it feels kind of weird to take the reigning world champions, albeit a different team, as the dark horse. But I feel like if there's any team that will, you know, have the chance to make a run, potentially to the finals and maybe even do some damage, OpTic definitely have the talent to do it. I'm not sure if I look at Miami, I look at Surge, even maybe Toronto could do something special this tournament. But I look at most of those other teams and I think, well, maybe they had their chance on some level earlier this season, whereas OpTic could be peaking at the right time with the Mercury's pickup. But if OpTic don't win, if they're not capable of winning, I'm certainly hoping that we get the FaZe Thieves final, because if it is going to be a two-team league, which it has been this year, I'm hoping that at least we get to cap it off with an epic battle between these two for the biggest tournament on offer. And then shortly after that, of course, there's another one a few weeks later. So very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.